I never imagined I would reach a point where the person I promised forever to would feel like a stranger in my own home. I always thought marriage was about quiet routines, shared laughter, and those small unspoken gestures that make life feel safe. I'm David, 36, and I had been married to Sarah for 13 years. On the surface, we had it all. A house in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, a golden retriever, 2 cars, and what friends would call a picture-perfect life. But perfect lives have cracks, some invisible until the light catches them just right. Sarah was magnetic when I met her. Charismatic, quick-witted, always smiling. I was steady, reliable, the kind of man who didn't make waves but got things done. She liked that about me. For years, I believed compatibility, respect, and shared values were enough to hold a marriage together. But they're not when someone you love begins to drift away slowly, almost imperceptibly. The first signs were subtle. She laughed less at my jokes, not because they were unfunny, but because she seemed distracted somewhere else. Her eyes, once warm and open, started to glaze over during conversations. Dinners together became silent, punctuated only by the occasional distracted sigh or a glance at her phone. I told myself it was stress, work deadlines, bills, family responsibilities. I folded laundry, cooked meals, and tried to create space for her to relax, believing love could be coaxed back with small acts of attention. But small gestures couldn't bridge a growing distance. I just couldn't see it yet. I remember the night it hit me. We were at a friend's dinner party, a casual gathering with colleagues and neighbors in Raleigh. I walked in and saw her across the room talking to Ryan, the kind of easygoing, charming guy who made people laugh effortlessly. The way she lit up at his jokes, the way her eyes sparkled when he spoke. It was like watching her rediscover a happiness that had nothing to do with me. My chest tightened and I felt a cold weight settle there. The kind of heaviness you carry when something fundamental shifts and there's nothing you can do to stop it. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't cause a scene or make demands. I quietly excused myself, stepped outside into the cool evening air, and let the city lights blur into a haze behind me. I drove home thinking about everything we had built together. The years, the shared dreams, the little routines that had once felt sacred. And I realized that while I was still holding on, she had already moved forward. The truth settled in my chest like ice. I was fighting for a love that no longer existed. The following days were unbearable in their silence. Sarah was distant, distracted, polite in the minimal way that signals avoidance rather than connection. I tried to engage, tried to ask how she was feeling, tried to recreate the intimacy we had lost somewhere along the way. But every attempt was met with a polite brush-off, a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. I began to understand something I hadn't wanted to admit. Love without reciprocity isn't love. It's endurance. And endurance can be exhausting. I started packing small things, not as an act of defiance but as preparation. Clothes, my laptop, the books I couldn't bear to leave behind. Each item placed into a bag felt like a step toward clarity. There was no drama, no shouting matches, no tears from me. Only a quiet acceptance that this chapter of my life was ending. The hardest part wasn't leaving her. It was leaving the version of us I had believed in for over a decade. Then one evening the truth became undeniable. I saw them together again, a brief glimpse through the living room window. Her hand brushed his. Her laugh carried across the street. In that instant something inside me clicked. I realized I could no longer participate in a marriage where I was invisible, where my love was background noise to her delight in someone else. I made a decision then, not out of anger, not out of vengeance, but out of self-preservation. I would leave quietly, finally, and reclaim the part of myself I had been losing without realizing it. The morning I left, I moved with deliberate calm. I didn't slam doors or shout. I didn't wait for her to notice because I knew she wouldn't. I packed the rest of my essentials, slid my duffel bag into the trunk, and paused at the doorway. For a moment I let the silence of the house wash over me, the faint hum of our life together now a memory instead of reality. Then I stepped outside, breathing in the crisp air, feeling the tension in my chest ease slightly with each step. I drove without a destination, letting the streets guide me. Every turn, every red light gave me a fraction of the freedom I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Hours passed and I found myself at a small park I used to visit alone on weekends. A quiet spot in Asheville where I could think without interruption. Sitting on a weathered bench, I stared at the empty playground, the swing swaying gently in the breeze, and I understood something profound. I had been seeking validation from a person who had no intention of giving it. And that wasn't my failure. It was hers. By the time I returned home that evening, I had made a plan. I would keep the house, the accounts, the life I had built intact. I would leave her to her choices, her secrets, her indiscretions. The act of detachment was strange at first. My hands moved with mechanical precision. Canceling subscriptions, logging out of accounts, retrieving what was rightfully mine. It was not revenge. It was a reclamation of dignity, a quiet affirmation that I was not powerless, even in heartbreak. Hours later, I heard the front door burst open, the sound sharp against the quiet of the house. Sarah's voice echoed through the hallway, trembling, raw, desperate. "David, wait. Please don't leave." I froze mid-step, my hand on the doorknob. Her tone wasn't anger or accusation. It was panic, vulnerability laid bare in a way I hadn't heard in years. She appeared in the doorway, eyes wide, chest heaving, her composure fractured. I didn't respond immediately. I let her words hang in the air like fragile glass, fragile and dangerous. "You can't just walk away like this," she continued, her voice breaking. There's something I haven't told you. Something I couldn't say." Her hands trembled at her sides, fingers clenching and unclenching, as though she needed to release the weight of her secret physically. I turned to face her fully, my expression calm, almost unreadable. There was no rush, no hysteria. The balance of power had shifted in the weeks leading up to this moment, and now it was mine. She had waited until the edge of loss to reveal herself, and I had waited until clarity to decide my next move. "I'm listening," I said softly, my voice steady, giving her the space she needed to confront whatever she had been hiding. Her eyes glistened with tears. And for a brief moment, the Sarah I had married, the woman who had once made my life feel full, peeked through the cracks of her fear. She swallowed, shivering, and finally whispered it, the truth that had weighed on her like a shadow, a confession of mistakes, of desires she had hidden, of a longing she had never expressed to me. It was messy, human, imperfect, and it might have been too little, too late. But I didn't react with rage or reproach. I just listened, absorbing each word as it came, feeling the gravity of our shared years juxtaposed with the reality of the distance that had grown between us. When she finished, the room was silent except for her ragged breathing. I looked at her, the same woman who had once lit up my life and now trembled before me, and I realized something I should have understood long ago. Love, respect, and trust cannot be demanded or reclaimed by pleading or confession. They either exist freely or they do not. I had spent too many years hoping for a spark that had faded, and now I could choose whether to linger in the ashes or walk toward the light. I stepped back, taking the duffel bag in my hand. "Sarah," I said, my voice calm but firm, "I've already made my choice. I can't be someone's second thought or someone who's only wanted when it's convenient." She reached for me, tears spilling down her cheeks, but I gently closed the distance between her and the door with a polite shake of my head. This wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. I opened the front door and stepped outside. The air felt different, lighter, sharper. The world hadn't changed, but I had. I walked to my car, each step reinforcing the realization that leaving wasn't just an escape. It was a reclamation of my dignity, my peace, my self-worth. She called my name once more, her voice trembling, pleading, but I didn't turn back. I drove away, not angry, not vindictive, only finally free. For the first time in years, I felt alive in a way I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. Free to breathe, to think, to live without compromise or quiet suffering. Love, I realized, is not meant to be a cage. It's meant to be a shared flame.